What? That's how we're kicking things off tonight. Oh shit. You know who wasn't in the Epstein files? You know who was proclaimed innocent? Listen, they're not even going to copy strike it, Chad. They're not even going to copy strike it because they turned on my man Michael. They disparaged him. They besmirched his legacy. But guess what? This has been one of the biggest things making me happy. Putting a smile on my face ear to ear every single day. Thinking about the fact that in 2026, we've finally seen vindication for the greatest artist in human history. The epitome of excellence. Michael Jackson, bro. See, I was one of those dudes back in the day, just to kick everything off tonight for the stream. I was one of the dudes who was doing the research, and I don't claim that I discovered this by any means, but I remember going back into the Neverland conspiracies. I remember going back and listening to the audio tapes of the parents proclaiming that they wanted to set up Michael, saying that they were going to end his career, that it's going to be worse than death. All I have to say is this, man. It was so clear that the evidence against Michael Jackson was fake, it was phony, and it makes me happy that at least one person in this sphere of Hollywood and entertainment and who was really prevalent at that time is actually innocent. You know, I've asked the question, guys, can there be one singer who is just not an evil creep behind the scenes? Can there be one actor, one film director, anybody in Hollywood that I can actually enjoy? Because if I'm, doing it measured by morality, I'm going to have to delete most of my music library, get rid of most of my films. So it's good to have at least one person. Little tangent to kick off the stream tonight. So shout out to everybody out there. McDipstick in the building. What's good, brother? It's good to see you guys, man. I'm actually doing a daytime stream here in Thailand, so I know it's late over in North America. It's like a nighttime stream. This is probably the first stream I've done in a minute by the light of day over here on this side of the world. But like I told you guys, I'm trying to be a little bit more health conscious. I'm trying to get myself into a good routine, a good regiment, maybe not stay up until 3 in the morning, streaming and doing all this stuff, handling business during the day. And also just trying to really kind of ground myself to have a routine. That's been the number one thing. And I never want to sound like I'm complaining because the life that I'm living right now is it's pretty incredible. Traveling the world, seeing all these different countries. There's really nothing to complain about in this scenario. But the one thing that's been completely robbed from me through this travel lifestyle and all these things that I've been doing has been the ability to create a routine. It's been virtually impossible for me to actually create any kind of routine. Predictability in my streams, predictability in even what I'm going to do on a day-to-day basis. And it felt like my life in the last couple of weeks or even the past month became like a series of apologies. Like, sorry, the stream is delayed. Sorry, I didn't make it on tonight. Sorry to my clients that this is delayed. I was traveling. Sorry, I couldn't answer your call. I was on a plane. And again, it's not a complaint. But for me, I take this really seriously, guys. I know some people just make content for fun. They just do it for kicks. Maybe their heart isn't really in it. For me, this shit is my life. This is my life's blood. There's nothing that means more to me than doing this and showing up for this. So yes, I got to have a lot of great experiences traveling around. We're in a new country every other week. We're seeing different things. We're meeting different people. But in the back of my mind, I can't really enjoy it if my streaming routine is being thrown off. So all this to say, I've put myself in one place for a month now. And this is really the time, guys, where we're forging that routine. We're getting back into that consistent streaming. We're getting back into that consistent vibe. And you can't really do that when you're constantly moving around. So those are the vibes right now, just to kick off the stream. So a lot to talk about tonight. As you guys can see from the title, we're going to be tackling the UFC and the entire fallout that's happened between Jon Jones and Dana White. So basically, here's what happened for anybody who missed this entire situation And just some context for anybody before we jump into the stream. So it was announced that the UFC would be throwing an event at the White House. It's going to be a massively anticipated event for the UFC and something that's been discussed for quite some time. This is going to be occurring on Donald Trump's birthday as well, which is, I mean, we're going to get into that later in the stream and kind of unpack all of that. How it ties into the political situation in America and etc. But there was debate as to whether or not Jon Jones was going to be participating in this historic battle, which will occur on June 14th at the White House. So the long and short of it is this. A lot of back and forth was happening. Jon Jones was fueling this speculation by saying, hey, I might actually be involved in this, and we're talking behind the scenes. Then suddenly Dana White swooped in and killed all conversation about Jon Jones potentially joining, which now ignited this massive feud. So we're going to play all of the different clips right now. We're going to go through all the information that you guys need to be caught up on this story. And make sure to smash that like and that sub. Let's heat this stream up. So let's play the first clip here from Dana White speaking on Jon Jones's participation or lack thereof in the White House UFC.
Dana, you talked about you don't want to say what fight fell out, which is fair enough, but there is obviously...
Well, there's weird circumstances around it that we probably shouldn't talk about.
Okay. There is speculation, of course, that it's Jon Jones.
No, it's not.
Was Jon
Ever, which I told you guys 100,000 times, was Jon Jones even remotely in my mind to fight at the White House. I wouldn't... First of all, I've told you why I wouldn't do it. And number two, some guy with, meta glasses on filmed him talking about his hips, that his hips are so bad. And I don't know if you guys saw that flag football game where he can barely run.
We're going to play
Jon
that
Jones
too.
He retired because of his hips. He's got arthritis in his hips. Apparently he's been, doctors say he should have hip replacement. So
okay.
Add that on top of all the other reasons that I wouldn't. The Jon Jones thing is bullshit. Okay. I'm not saying they weren't talking to Jon Jones and that Jon Jones wasn't interested in the fight. And what was even crazier is Jon Jones came out and was like, I'm in negotiations right now for the White House fight, after I had already sent a text to his lawyer saying, never going to happen ever.
Is it fair to say then Jon Jones is retired and this is the end of his time?
Yes.
Okay.
Very fair.
For the White
There you have it, guys. So Dana White completely shooting down the rumors that Jon Jones would participate in the UFC White House card and really having some harsh words about Jon Jones. Now, for anybody wondering about the context when it comes to the leaked footage that Dana mentions here of somebody with meta glasses actually recording Jon Jones speaking on his health, we have that clip here too. So let's take a look at this. This is from, I guess, a flag football game or some sort of extracurricular side mission that Jon Jones was doing. And in this interview, he does kind of vindicate Dana in the sense that he confirms what he's saying. And he does confirm that the arthritis and the hip issues have been a big deal for him. So let's take a look at this clip of Jon Jones that Dana was referring to.
It's true. I do have arthritis, and the kid that leaked that was an absolute asshole. I was talking to some guys in confidential, and he had one of those metal glasses on like myself, and he ended up posting that. That wasn't for everybody to hear.
I have severe arthritis, and most people don't know that. I actually already qualified for a hip replacement.
Oh, shit.
But that's how life works. I've been an athlete my whole entire life, and it's just something that comes with it. I think I started sports in 7th grade, and now I'm almost 40 years old. So it comes with it, but I do it all over again. And I feel great. You guys will see today. I'm going to get a warm-up. I'm going to be running around, having fun, and doing what I do, baby.
Okay, so Jon Jones pretty much proving Dana White's point, and pardon the pun, but I don't think he really has a leg to stand on when it comes to this situation now. So let's go ahead and take a look at Jon Jones and what he actually had to say. So let me just double check here. Yeah, so this is the official Jon Jones. For some reason, he changed his name to Johnny Meat on X, which is super weird. Not sure if that's an inside thing or what. This is what Jon Jones had to say on X. He says, "Hey everyone, I wanted to address Dana White's comments from this past weekend because the truth matters to me and the fans. Dana, you were heated about why I'm not on the White House card, but let's clear something up. My team and I were actually negotiating with the UFC for that fight, real negotiations. I even came down from my original number, which was, and what was I offered in return? I was lowballed. Yes, I have arthritis in my hip and it's painful, but that doesn't mean I can't fight. So let me get this straight. If I had accepted the lowball offer, suddenly my hip would be fine and I'd be on the White House card. That doesn't make sense. Jon Jones continues, I even received stem cell treatment last week to get ready for the White House card, and training camp was scheduled to start that day. I was preparing to be ready. I understand business deals fall through sometimes, but going publicly and saying that things that aren't true isn't right. After everything I've given to the UFC, the years, the title defenses, the fights, hearing that I'm, quote, done is disappointing. Especially when, as recently as Friday, UFC was calling me, trying to get me on that White House card for a much lower number. If the UFC truly feels like I'm done, then I respectfully ask to be released from my contract today, says Jon Jones. He ends his statement saying, no more spins, no more games. Thank you to the real fans who know what's up. So Jon Bones Jones reacting to Dana White and saying, look, you are weaving a tale here. This is not true. So what do you guys think down below in the chat about this whole scenario? First of all, look, at the end of the day, when it comes to UFC and fighters kind of going up against the organization, maybe I'm a little bit biased with the limited knowledge that I have of the UFC. But typically in these scenarios, I tend to side with the fighters. And again, it is a little bit of inherent bias. I'm going to be honest about that. But from what I can tell on the outside, and also, again, I have a little bit of knowledge of the UFC. I've interviewed people who work at the UFC, and I've attended some of their events. I've known comedians and people like that who've been behind the scenes. But from what I understand, there is a lot of frustration with the leadership of the organization, and there's a lot of frustration with Dana White and the way that he operates. Again, I can't directly speak to that, but this is something that I've observed. So when it comes to the fighters going up against them, especially when it comes to pay disputes, just based on the history that we can go back and look at, again, this is verifiable stuff you can trace back, I tend to side with the fighters in this scenario. Now, when it comes to the Jon Jones situation here, I do think it's a tough scenario. He's been sort of a brand risk and a liability for the UFC on one hand, but also he's been very instrumental in their success and is undoubtedly an icon within the space. So I do think that presents a lot of challenges for Dana White and for the leadership in that regard. Nonetheless, he has given a lot to the UFC, and I do think Dana kind of threw him under the bus when it comes to this scenario. Dana really tried to frame it like he was never being considered for this fight. And I do think that if they were having negotiations with Jon Jones behind the scenes, this is sort of uncalled for when you really think about it. And Dana does kind of pivot too, and he flip-flops. He does make the statement here at the end, we'll play it, where he goes, you know, I'm after saying that Jon Jones was never ever considered, he goes, well, I'm not saying that we didn't talk to him, I'm not saying he wasn't interested, but he was never considered. So Dana even going back and flip-flopping really in this statement.
I'll talk about that tomorrow at the to do for this fight. Literally, Craig Borsari had a
Is it fair to say that Jon,
where he can barely run. Jon Jones
This was here.
he retired because of his hips. He's got arthritis in his hips. Apparently, he's been doctors say he should have hip replacement. So
okay,
add that on top of all the other reasons that I wouldn't. The Jon Jones thing is bullshit. I'm not saying they weren't talking to Jon Jones and that Jon Jones wasn't interested in the fight. And it was even crazier.
See, that's the part right there. That's the sticking point. Dana opens his statement saying we never, ever considered Jon Jones for being part of this fight. And then at the end he goes, well, I'm not trying to say we didn't talk to him. So that's completely hypocritical when it comes to Dana's part. Ultimately, I do think there's some slimy business stuff going on, and we're not in the meeting rooms for these situations. You know, I'm not on the Zoom calls. I'm not on the phone calls. So I can't necessarily point the finger and say this guy's right and this guy's wrong. What I can say, though, is that Jon Jones, especially since they clearly were talking to him about this and they're kind of lying now. They're lying about not having spoken to him and even walking it back. I think as a guy who has given so much to the UFC, Jon Jones does deserve a level of respect at least when it comes to the way that he's spoken about in the media. I don't know that Dana owes him respect personally. I mean, these guys have been through so much together. Jon Jones has caused so many trials and tribulations for this organization that, you know, if I was the leader of the UFC, if I was Dana, I'd probably be sick of him too. I don't expect them to get along. I don't expect them to be best friends. But when you're talking about somebody at a press conference of an event for an organization where this person has made you a lot of money, this person's put a lot of asses in seats, he sold a lot of pay-per-views for you to be living the lavish life that you have, Jon Jones has made this guy tons of cash, and he's been the face of the UFC for a number of years. I do think there's a way to talk about him that could be more respectful, and there's a way to talk about these fighters and these people who, again, have made Dana a lot of money. There's a way to kind of phrase it and be a little bit more gentlemanly about the way you talk about these guys. Now, Dana doesn't owe that to anybody, but I'm saying as a moral kind of thing, it's probably better to do it that way. And let's not forget, by the way, Dana, you talk about these guys having messed up bodies or having arthritis or having issues. The only reason they're having issues with their physicality is because they have sacrificed their body for your organization. So this sort of adds an insult to injury as well when it comes to Jon Jones. Dana is criticizing a guy for having arthritis when this dude only has arthritis because he was fighting in the UFC. He sacrificed his body. He sacrificed elements of his future to fight in this organization. So that speaks almost more so to what Jon Jones has given to an organization like the UFC. So that's kind of what I'm saying here. I feel like it's sort of dishonest the way that Dana's talked about it. I'm seeing in the chat, don't bite the hand that feeds you. I can understand that too, but I don't think Jon Jones is biting the hand that feeds him. I think the hand that feeds him is being dishonest. Let me know what you guys think. We have another clip to roll here. So this was Dana White responding to the tweets from Jon Jones. We did read the initial statement from Jon Jones really explaining this. He also had a bunch of other tweets that was sort of like a tirade against Dana White, some angry tweets which he did delete. Can we see if we can find those tweets? I don't know if there's more tweets. Let me see. I don't know if they were deleted or what. Yeah, here they are. So Jones was tweeting like, I'm released from the UFC. Let's go. If I would prove him wrong, would I be wrong? So he just sort of went on like an unhinged tirade. All this negotiating was complete bullshit. Is that what you want me to agree to publicly? Laying in my bed, wrapping my head around this perception. All I can think now is how fucking painful. Yeah, so he's on one. He's on one all the way. So let's see what Dana had to say in response to all these tweets from Jon Bones Jones. Damn, it's a long-ass intro.
Dana, front
Yep.
right here. Other side right here.
Yep.
I don't know if you saw, but this morning, Jon Jones went on a bit of a Twitter tirade, and then he ended up deleting them. Have you seen his comments?
No.
Or he basically very heavily pushed back on you, saying that there were no negotiations. And then
I never said there were no negotiations. I never said that. I said, were they talking to Jon Jones?
Nah, you kind of did, though, Dana. That's the thing. He walked it back in the end, but he did say there was no negotiations. He said he was never considered.
And then
I never said there were no negotiations. I never
Bullshit.
said that. I said, were they talking to Jon Jones? They talked to everybody. Everybody was talked to. Not one word of what I said was not true about the whole Jon Jones thing. And how many times have I sat up here and said, he's not fighting at the White House?
What do you guys think? Is he capping or what? I mean, honestly, I feel like it's disingenuous to say this.
No. And have you guys not all seen the video of the dude with the meta glasses on when he didn't know he was being filmed, telling them that his hips are fucking shot and he needs hip replacement? Did you not see the videos of him running on the flag football game? And what did I say that wasn't true? It was all true. And you guys all bust my balls about how much I love Jon Jones. And John's the greatest of all time. No way in hell Jon Jones is going to be booked for the White House card. Wasn't going to happen. But the matchmakers were out talking to everybody, seeing what was possible, and they brought me every possible fight that could be made.
It makes no sense what he's saying, though. There was no possibility that he was going to fight, but the matchmakers for the fight were talking to him as a possible option. It just doesn't track. Why would they be talking to Jon Jones if he wasn't being considered? And it does sort of, give credence to what Jon is saying. All these negotiations, all these conversations are obviously just a waste of my time. So look, I think it's a multi-layered business dealing, and I'm sure there's things behind the scenes that we don't particularly understand. That being said, there is something that's not passing the smell test, and I think that they're kind of treating Jon Jones in a way that's not warranted. They're treating him like he's nothing. They're treating him like a non-entity. And I know they're in charge, but that's a pretty bold move to make when you're dealing with a guy who's brought in so much money for this organization. Let's take a look at what the chat is saying, and make sure to drop your thoughts in the chat, guys. John says, who cares? The UFC is not what it was, and pay-per-view has become too expensive. Well, John, it's funny you say that because a lot of people are actually agreeing with that statement. I mean, I've seen a lot of comments. If we just go to this first clip here of Dana that we were watching, a lot of the comments happen to agree with you. We're seeing some statements here. If we can load them up. Low-key, the UFC is not hitting the same anymore. This comment has 1.2 thousand likes. Nobody's going to mention the Paramount blackout. Yeah, there's disputes about that as well. Somebody says Dana is actively trying to make the most mid-card for the White House, and there's been a lot of criticism about the card. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of people agree with you, John, that the UFC just is not hitting the same. For me, I could see that perspective to a degree. I mean, I still think it's entertaining. I really do enjoy the UFC. I'm not a sports guy, but the UFC is the only sport that I've actually showed up to watch in person. I had the opportunity to sit next to the octagon at one point, which was a really, really thrilling experience and something I'd love to do again. I mean, it's a sport that I enjoy, but as an organization, in 2026, it does more so feel like it's a money thing. Definitely not getting the vibes of this is ran by people who are passionate about the sport. Definitely not getting the vibes of this is by the people for the people. UFC has become a very much commercial entity, and almost more so than it really should be. It almost feels more commercial than other sports in a way. And I think a lot of that is due to Dana's leadership, which I'm not going to sit here and say is bad. But that's what it is. Watch in the chat says, greatest of all time has to be clean to be honest. Well, look, I can understand that too, Watch. I mean, at the end of the day, I would say Jon Jones has created a lot of havoc for the UFC. And we can't sit here and act like Jon Jones is some sort of angel. I mean, the guy has created PR chaos for this organization. And we have to remember, too, I can sit here on my high horse and say that Dana needs more patience with this guy. But to play devil's advocate, how much patience is Dana going to have with one individual? Jon Jones, he's been given a lot of chances. Okay, when you look at the track record of him in the UFC and all the trouble he's gotten in, his attempt to make comebacks, fight again, he's been given a number of chances. Probably more chances than most people would get, and I would say that is due to his talent. So look, you guys tell me what you think. I do think they're kind of bullshitting with this when it comes to Dana and what they're saying about Jon Jones not being considered. I don't believe that. But I think also this is kind of a consequence of being such a pain in the ass. Maybe they're not going to treat him as well as they otherwise would. Marcus says, been watching the UFC since the early 2000s, kind of getting tired of the 5-hour fight cards. Yeah, man, I could see that 100%. I mean, some of them can get long, for sure. There's no question. Jon Jones is a fighting legend, period, says Noddings. I completely agree, guys. I completely agree. So let me know what you guys think down below in the chat about Jon Jones. We do have information here. So like we're mentioning, this UFC is going to be happening at the White House, which is something they've been pushing for a long time, by the way, and they finally managed to make a reality. So the UFC at the White House is going to be occurring on June 14th, 2026. And the fighters on the main card, where are the fighters? Are they not going to put the fighters here? So the headlining card is going to be Ilia Topuria and Justin Gaethje. That is going to be the main card, which is happening at the White House UFC. It's going to be happening on June 14th, which is the 80th birthday of U.S. President Donald Trump. What do you guys think about the UFC happening at the White House? For me, honestly, guys, at the point that we're at, I feel like this would have been controversial like 4 years ago. But at the point that we're at, with the actual controversies that we have, with all of the crazy things going on in government, I would actually say this isn't even controversial at all. And again, like, it's funny how times change and sensibilities change. This certainly would have been outrageous or shocking at one point, but maybe I'm at the point where nothing outrages me anymore. That's kind of how I'm feeling now. And it is very characteristic of where we're at in this current administration. That's really all I can say about it. Nothing really shocks me. We are in the midst of the biggest scandal in American history and government history with the Epstein files. We don't have any answers. It's been unearthed that most of the people in government are evil. Nobody can afford gas. Nobody's going to ever own a home. Nobody can afford anything whatsoever. And we're on the verge of nuclear warfare. But the priority of the president is to have an event, a fighting event, at the White House for his 80th birthday. I mean, I really don't know what to add after that. If this is where we're at, we might as well just have a party while we watch it all burn down, don't you think? I mean, look, if it's all going to burn down anyway, this is sort of what it tells me. Like, if this is where we're at, this just means everybody's accepted it's going to burn down. Trump doesn't really seem that concerned because he knows it's just all burning down. So why not have a fight? Fuck it. Let's have a fucking full-blown circus at the White House. Let's have a fucking burlesque show. Let's just have every show while we build this ballroom. Look, why do you guys think I'm running around the world right now? It's all burning down. I don't give a fuck what happens anymore. That's why I'm literally in a new country every 2 weeks. That's why I'm out here living the life that I've always wanted to live, because, and I'll tell you guys this, if you've ever, shout out to Manny Man in the chat, he knows what I'm saying. If you've ever wanted to do anything, guys, this is the time to do it. If you've ever wanted to start a new hobby, if you've ever wanted to go to Paris, buy that ticket, whatever you're trying to do, whatever you've always wanted to do it now, because this whole shit's burning down. I think it's over. And people have criticized me. People have called me a pessimist. I like to call it having observational skill. I like to call it honesty. Because if we're throwing the UFC at the White House in the midst of World War III, I would say my outlook is actually the glass half full. I'm not even being as pessimistic as I probably should be. But I don't want to go down the political rabbit hole tonight, folks. We're going to save that. We're going to save that for next time. We're going to save that for tomorrow. I want to keep my cortisol levels and my blood pressure lower on this stream. It's a beautiful daytime stream. I'm seeing in the chat, nothing is burning down. Oh, nothing's burning down. Just schools in Iran full of innocent children. Other than that, everything's great. Yeah, we're on the verge of World War III, but everything's fine. Apparently, according to Tyler Bringas, everything is good. I would hate to see what bad looks like if everything is good now. That would be scary. All right, guys, so let's hop into another story. We're going to see... Oh, actually, we have one more clip about... the UFC. I just wanted to play it for you guys, mostly to get your reaction. So Ronda Rousey has gone nuclear over everything happening here. She talks about the UFC happening at the White House. She blasts Dana White for his treatment of Jon Jones. And she gives some information about how she feels the UFC is currently operating today, and basically citing that it's a completely different organization than it ever was while she was inside. Let's go ahead and take a listen right now to Ronda Rousey, and let's see if she makes a point.
It's one of the worst places to go. It's one of the, it's why so many of their top athletes are leaving to go and find pay elsewhere. It's why their champions like Valentina are selling pictures of their titties on OnlyFans. You know, like these people are, a lot of them at the ground level, they can't support their families. They're living poverty level, fighting full time. And
who the fuck is filming this, by the way? Like, how do these people manage to get press credentials? They can't even film.
This company just got $7.7 billion. Like, there's no reason that they can't afford to pay their athletes at least a living wage, and not even that, to at least be able to match what these athletes are making in other sports. Why would they expect to get the best athletes and the best aspiring kids that want to be something into MMA? Why not go into football? Why not go into boxing? Why not go into anything else? And so they're bleeding talent because of their short-term greed. They're thinking about the next quarter. They're thinking about the shareholders, and they're not thinking about their responsibility to be, stewards of the future of the sport.
Yeah, film the ground in the middle of a great quote. Just start filming the ground, buddy. I was curious what the tile looked like. What do you guys think of that? I mean, I think she's pretty dead on. And look, if anybody can speak on this, by the way, it's Ronda Rousey. And this is kind of alluding to what I was trying to say as well. Like, what I was trying to say is that we do really get the feeling from the UFC today that it is a very corporate thing. You don't get the sense that they care about the fighters very much. And you don't get the sense that that's what it's all about. It is about shareholders. It is about the bottom line. You can feel that through the product that you get. And yeah, that's true. Look, when you see women in the UFC doing OnlyFans, who are supposed to be high-level fighters or valuable fighters to the organization, that does make you question, why aren't they making enough money? Now, to be fair, though, it's not just the UFC that has this. And I do think, look, I'm just going to say it flat out, I do think Dana's greedy to a degree. I don't think that's really a secret. Dana White, I do think is quite greedy. Doesn't mean he's a bad person. I just think he's about his money, and he doesn't care really about much of the rest. Maybe not even a negative quality as a leader. Maybe not even a negative quality when you're running a business that's worth billions of dollars. I can't really speak to that. Nonetheless, I do think Dana is a little bit greedy. So I'm just going to put that out there. But also to look at both sides, there are a lot of people in entertainment, in music, in television who are making a lot less money than you think they're making, and also making a lot less money than they should. That is why you see a lot of people from reality shows or, music stars or people like that starting the OnlyFans, going to Cameo.com so they can make money doing shout-outs, doing these extra things that you wouldn't really have to do if you were making enough money. It's not unique to the UFC, but it is prevalent in this organization.
They weren't able to offer me, a respectable deal under the streaming model. He was the one that was like, I want you to make as much money as possible. Don't stay here and take less for me. He gave me his blessing to go out and do it on my own. And if anyone's been his apprentice, on how to be a promoter, it's been me. And after I let him know before anybody else that I had gone to Netflix, and I wanted to, I didn't want him to be upset with me, and he was like, I could never be upset with you. I love you so much. I want you to do great. I want this to be successful. He's always been my friend first before anything else. And I think that most of my criticisms of the UFC now is because Dana isn't the owner, and he isn't calling the shots, and he isn't running things the way that he wants, because he's an employee of the company now. He's not an owner, and I think it was a big mistake of theirs to not let him just run things the way that he always has.
Do you think he was upset when he saw your comments yesterday on social media? You mentioned that he wasn't upset with you for taking this fight.
Oh, he knows the White House card sucks. Like, he knows that they were pushing this for over a year, and
You guys think the card sucks or what? I'm not a UFC expert, so I can't really speak on if the card sucks or not. I'm the guy who just likes the sport, but I'm not the guy who really knows, oh, well, this guy versus this guy, and he had these stats. I'm not a stats guy. What do you guys think of the card? Let's pull out the card again. UFC White House card. This is it here. Tupuria versus Gavde. Is this a shitty card? Last time I saw the UFC, it was all like the big name people. It was like Max Holloway. It was Cyborg. Those are the people I saw.
They were pushing this for over a year, and it fell extremely short of expectations. I mean, he was so upset about it. He was talking about a fight falling out the day before. It's I can guarantee you he's not happy with it either. And he's the one that taught me through example to speak my mind. UFC was the best place that you could come in combat sports to make a living and be paid fairly, and now it's no longer. It's one of the worst places to go. It's why so many of their top athletes are leaving to go and find pay elsewhere. It's why their champions like Valentina are selling pictures of their titties on OnlyFans.
So wait, how much do UFC fighters actually get paid, guys? Like this, do they actually get screwed that bad? I'm going to Grok right now. I'm going to, in Grok we trust, guys. Let's just try to figure this out. Shortest answer, how much are UFC fighters paid? I could only type with one hand, so it takes a little longer. Yeah, what are these fighters I mean, they can't be getting paid that bad, dude. Unless it's really worse than I think. So UFC fighters are paid per fight. No salary. Okay. Newcomers entry level is typically $12,000 to show up, $12,000 to win. So $12K if you lose, $24K if you win. With sponsorships pay roughly $4,000 to $6,000 a fight. Mid-tier get $50 to $150 per fight, plus show and win bonuses. And top stars and champions get hundreds of thousands to millions per fight. So why are you complaining then? This isn't even bad. Dude, I know YouTubers and streamers who don't even make $12,000 a year. I know streamers who make like $5,000 a year who work regular jobs. Why are you here complaining that you're making $12,000 a fight? Even if you just make $12,000 a fight. And how many fights do you have a month? You're making tons of cash. Mid-tier fights, $50,000 to $150,000 per fight. A lot of people make that a year. I don't understand why these people are bitching. Is it because they want to be as rich as other sports players? That would make sense, but don't sit here and say that it's a bad wage, though. If you want to be paid as much as the NBA, just say that. And then that's a conversation we can have. Because, I mean, that is a fair question. Why do NBA players get millions and millions of dollars, but these people get this? That's a fair question, but don't try to frame it like you're not getting paid well to fight people. There's people who fight for free, who love it just as much. And they don't get paid a cent. Interesting. So yeah, let me know what you guys think down below. Again, I'm just covering all the top breaking stories in music and entertainment. This does fall under entertainment. I'm no sports analyst, and I'll never try to be. I'm never going to pretend to be. And by the way, hopefully that's part of what you guys enjoy about these streams. I see so many people get on podcasts, especially nowadays in this new era that we're in, and they try to play expert. You know, I've never seen so many people at the same time who want to be experts on something, whether it's geopolitics, whether it's finances, whether it's technology, dating, relationships. Everybody who grabs a mic and looks into a camera in 2026 is a self-proclaimed expert on something. And what I hope can set me apart from the crowd is that I'm not an expert on anything other than broadcasting. I'll be an expert on broadcasting. I've been doing this for 17 going on 18 years. I know how to talk into a mic and on a camera. Outside of that, I'm not an expert on shit. And look, the conversations we have with me and you in the chat, the conversations I have with guests, this is the same as the conversations we would have in our living rooms. When you're at family get-together, we're all talking about the war with Iran. We're all talking about Trump. We're all talking about all this stuff. We're not experts, but we have a say, and we have our thoughts, and we have our opinions, and we share and talk about it. That, to me, is what these streams are. This is the same as if we're at a barbecue, we're knocking back a couple cold ones, and we start talking about Trump, or we start talking about whatever. That's what this stream is. So to all the wannabe experts and the geopolitical analysts who are, live streamers who are 23 years old, you guys are not welcome here. This is a zone for people to talk their shit. And shout out to the chat, man. Shout out to you guys who tune in every single couple of days, every other day to these streams. You guys watch the recordings. You guys watch live. You participate. Shout out to you, because this is the anti-BS channel. This is the anti-donor channel. This is not corporate funded. This is not corporate media. This is a true blue live stream. This is the real deal. And by the way, do you guys know how much I would stand to gain by pretending to be an expert and or grifting? You guys saw how much, look, I started getting mad support from Trump supporters when I was against Kamala in the election. Now, I very much disliked Kamala, but in no way am I a MAGA guy. I started getting massive support from MAGA because I was railing against Kamala during the election, which, by the way, I would have done no matter who was the opponent, because that woman is just an idiot. She's just not that intelligent. Easy to call her out. I started getting massive support from MAGA. Do you guys know how much money? I was talking about this with somebody the other day. How much money I could have made if I decided to lean into that support with tens of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people watching my stuff who are pro-MAGA. You know how much money I would have made if I would have leaned into that grift for a year? Do you know how much money I would have in my possession right now if I would have leaned into that grift for even 6 months and represented something that I don't believe? I would have stood to make a lot. I would have had 100,000 subscribers by now, and I'd be living in luxury. I don't have it in me. I can't do it. That's what I want you guys to understand. There are so many pathways for me to instantly blow up overnight, but I refuse to take them because it doesn't sit right on my soul. Hand to God. I'm telling you, it doesn't feel right. And see, people confuse it because they're like, well, he doesn't blow up like that because he doesn't know how to do it. That's how people try to frame it. He doesn't have 1 million followers because he doesn't know how. He doesn't have 10 million on TikTok because he doesn't know how. See, here's the discrepancy. I know how to do it. I just choose not to do it. Because I would much rather sit here and talk about this stuff with a few thousand people than sit and be somebody that I'm not for 300,000 people. It's never going to happen. It doesn't sit right on my soul. And look what happened since that point. If I would have leaned into the grift, I would have made a lot of money, but then the Epstein files come out. Then the war with Iran starts. Then it comes out that Trump is a shill for Israel, and he's basically bought and paid for by Netanyahu. Then I've painted myself in the corner to support that. So ultimately, guys, this is a little side tangent here. I don't give a shit. I need to make it very clear. This is all by choice. The level that I'm at, how I execute these things, and the messages that I put out, it's all by choice. I understand that there's faster, more efficient ways to reach more people. I understand that telling people what they want to hear gives you faster results. And it's a more clear pathway to the top. But I don't want to sit on a throne of bullshit. I can't imagine actually doing it and having the money and having the acclaim and people knowing me, but knowing me for being something I'm not. I can't sit with that. So this is ultimately where I am. Somebody says this is a Trump channel, so be nice. This is not a Trump channel. See, this is what I'm talking about. What are you going on about, gang? This is my trans homie. Do you mean me or Gene? I think Gene looks a little more trans than me. Let's hop into the next story here. So, Gene Simmons, back in the headlines yet again. It seems like it's only a couple of days to a week in between Gene being back in the headlines each time. Making headlines saying that celebrities should Making headlines saying celebrities should shut up about politics. Now, this is an awfully interesting point coming from Gene, but let's go ahead and play what he had to say and listen to his statement now.
I know right now Ben Stiller is calling out the president saying he doesn't want him to use his movie clips for war propaganda. I mean, it sounds like a lot of people are kind of, criticizing Trump, like Hollywood right now, over this war thing. Is that fair?
Yeah, because everybody in the world should listen to what actors and comedians say because they're so qualified. Basically, shut the up. Do your art and shut up. Nobody's interested in your opinions. That includes me. Who I vote for, who I like. Who the do you think you are? People in America work hard for their living and they don't want to be lectured to by people who live in mansions and drive Rolls Royces. It's time for everybody in the entertainment industry to shut their pie hole and just do your art. Nobody cares what you think. I don't.
Okay.
What will Mark Ruffalo, however the he pronounces his name.
Mark Ruffalo, yeah.
Well, good. Ruffalo, Buffalo. What does Mark think about politics? I don't care.
So you think celebrities should stay out of the politic talk?
Well, we both agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know.
Or go to Kylie Jenner and ask her what she thinks of the war so far.
Gene Simmons doubling down on his statement here to TMZ. Now, a couple things to unpack here. One, I feel like the overall sentiment of Gene's statement here is accurate. I'm going to give him that right off the bat. When it comes to people who live such affluent lives, talking about issues that mostly affect the everyday person, there's obviously a disconnect there, and I don't think people are buying it anymore in the big 2026. We have people who live in gated communities talking to us about open borders. We have people who literally have never been in a grocery store for the past 20 years talking to us about the price of things, the cost of living. There's a huge disconnect there, and it's just something that people aren't buying in 2026. That's something I'll say right off the bat. So Gene's overall sentiment is correct. The only concern is this quote feels a little bit out of place coming from him because Gene likes to flip his opinion on a whim. And what happens with Gene is, what happens with him is that he'll be okay with something while he's doing it, But then when other people do it, he'll like shut it off because he's already done it, so now it's over. So if we go ahead and look, and I hate to pull it up, but I have to pull it up. In the interest of being fair and honest, I have to pull it up. We have this quote here from Gene Simmons speaking on the pandemic. Now, it's not to beat a dead horse, but it's just to be consistent here with the person that we're listening to. Is it going to load for me or not? Oh, this is like an old dial-up internet. It's taking forever to load. Remember when you had to look at the computer and it would slowly load? Okay, let's try this again. Damn. Reddit doing me dirty on the stream tonight. Here we go. Bro's got the dial-up Wi-Fi. Okay. So this is the quote from Gene that he decided to put out during the pandemic at the height of political tensions. I'm going to read as follows. He said, quote, "I don't care about your political beliefs. If you walk among us unvaccinated, you are the enemy. You are an enemy. You don't have the, quote, right to go through a red light or smoke in a building. I hate this whole delusional, evil idea that you get to do whatever you want because of your quote-unquote rights, and the rest of the world be damned." That is a direct quote from Gene Simmons himself speaking during the pandemic. So while I do feel like Gene's message does hold up in his latest statement about celebrities needing to shut up, because I couldn't agree more on that, it doesn't really resonate with me as much because he's been guilty of doing the same thing so many times. That being said, though, maybe I have to hand it to Gene that maybe he's learned his lesson in this scenario. Look, just because somebody does something or is in a certain circumstance, that doesn't leave a mark on them forever. You know, people will use this against Gene. People will look at a business professional giving financial advice and say, well, they used to be bankrupt. Just because you were bankrupt or just because you did something in the past, that doesn't necessarily mark you with that today. So maybe Gene did learn his lesson. I'm curious to see what you guys think about Gene's thoughts. But I do think that overall, yeah, the Mark Ruffalos of the world, the Bruce Springsteens, I'm not overly moved by your political statements at this point. The only thing that I can really think about is I think we're seeing more participation in political discourse today, I believe, because the barrier of entry seems to be so much lower. You know, back in the day, there was this feeling, this sentiment that the everyday person maybe shouldn't comment on politics and world events because the people who were in positions of power were experts. The people who were in positions of power were very well read and informed about the current scenarios and what's happening, and that we should sort of leave it to them. That was the sentiment, I think, back in the day, that we were in the hands of smart people. We were in the hands of people who knew what they were doing and what they were talking about. And I think today it's become so overwhelmingly clear that the people in government who are leading our systems are not exceptional at all. Most of them are not really that bright. And most of them really don't even have average levels of intelligence or competence whatsoever. Now that that has sort of been revealed, I think that explains the over-participation in political discourse from everybody. Because the average person who's a citizen, I would say, is probably just as smart, if not smarter, than most people in government. They're really nothing special, the people who are running things right now. And a lot of us are smarter than them, and we actually know what's happening even more than they do. So that's my only hypothesis here. I think that the over-participation in political conversation stems from the fact that the average person with the average opinion is pretty much just as valid as the everyday politician in 2026. And that's been revealed by people in power. That's been revealed by, even we look at the Jeffrey Epstein interview. Horrible guy. Nonetheless, he did reveal one very good point about the financial system, which is that most of the people in stocks and high finance, they don't do much because they don't really understand the system. all of these people who are supposed to be so exceptional, apparently when you meet them, and I've heard this about presidents and politicians from a lot of different people, when you meet these people, you realize they're really not exceptional at all. So what do you guys think, man? Is Gene off base? Is Gene on base? Politics is for jesters. I agree with that, actually. In the chat. Look, it's all the people who are running the show laughing at all of us thinking that there's a difference. The people who control the Democrats and Republicans are one entity which laughs at us collectively. While we fight with each other and think there's a difference, they're just collecting our money and laughing in our faces. David says, I agree the stars should keep their opinion to themselves. David, listen, it's a very valid perspective. Stars are people who are pampered. Stars are people who are often spoiled. Why should we want to listen to them? They're disconnected from reality. I could agree with that. Pink First says, why do you have Gene Simmons' photo and quote? Because we were just covering Gene Simmons as a story. You must have just joined. We just finished covering the Gene Simmons story of him speaking on celebrities keeping their mouths shut. So that's why we had the Gene Simmons quote up there. Make sure to hit the like and hit the sub, guys. Let's see what else we got. We have some other stuff that I saved. Let's see. There's a new Harvey Weinstein interview. There's Kai Cenat. Let's take a look at... Let's look at this one. Jack Dougherty got humbled by a little kid. Yeah, that makes sense. What does a little kid have to say to a millionaire streamer?
Does he know what it's like to face his consequences, buddy?
What did I do wrong, buddy?
You bump into people in the street, and then you get your big bodyguard to protect you. Everything you do, you Jack Dougherty everything. You fake everything. You rug all your videos. Yeah, you rug all your videos, bro. I know that McKinley shit was fake. I know that McKinley shit was fake. Hug that pillow and wishing it was McKinley.
What is happening?
And wishing it was McKinley.
Oh, bro, don't do us dirty like that. Come on. This is a generational roast. Don't do us dirty, X. Come on. Elon. Help. Bro, come on now.
I know you wish that was McKinley.
Damn.
Hold up.
McKinley.
Damn.
You need to spit on people and then he protects you.
I'm getting
He
pressed.
protects you. Yo, oh, you don't want him, bro.
Yo, chill, man. That's my girl.
Your girl, bro, you got no girls.
Bro. Shout out to this little kid, man. I gotta be honest, this kid just gave me hope for the next generation. Because I thought all these little kids loved Jack Dougherty. Even they realize he's a complete clown. And that's what I love. You know, that's been one of the most distressing things to me, guys, on this stream. Has been seeing the fact that a lot of these destructive influences in streaming, their fans are 11 years old. I'll never understand it. I don't understand the push of certain types of streamers to these young audiences. Like, these are guys who make their money off OnlyFans. These are guys who are involved in all types of shit that has nothing to do with kids. I don't understand why this is pushed to kids. Nonetheless, it's good to see that even the young generation can sniff out the bullshit. And I do think that, look, I worry a lot about the next gen. I worry a lot about the generation that's coming up. Because, like, a lot of the stuff that we're experiencing as adults, we can't even handle. I wonder how this next generation is going to take it. But hopefully it'll be easier for them growing up in the internet era from the very start, because their bullshit radar is going to be a lot better than ours. That's the one thing. When you're like, we had to adapt in my generation, in our generation, most of us watching this, to the internet, to these new things, to these new spaces. And we had to develop like new radars for things, to clock certain things, to pick up on certain things, to say, okay, this story's real, this isn't real. Hopefully, and this is my hope for the next generation, hopefully they will have a better BS radar than us. They'll be able to detect something that's fake quicker. They'll be able to see that something's AI before I can even tell it's AI. I would hope that these kids become more adept to the fact that most of what they're being served is manipulated or has an agenda in some way. So this is very good to see. This is very encouraging. And look, maybe there is hope for the next generation. That's what I would ultimately say. Private Space says, Gen Z is the last generation that was halfway enslaved to the past alpha. To the past, alpha is the future. We must keep them off the internet. Well, we're not going to keep them off the internet. That's not possible. And it's already too late for that. But I do think that if they're going to be on the internet, we need to make safeguards for them. We need to make sure that, like, they understand how to use it. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know how exactly we're going to do it, but I do think that there needs to be also some sort of ID component to the internet. And I'm going to get probably pushback for saying that. Listen, I believe in privacy. I believe in freedom of, usage of the internet and freedom of information and access and all that. Wholeheartedly, I do. But I don't believe in it for children. So I think that we need to have safeguards for certain websites, for certain services. Like, why is there all this adult material on the internet that anybody can access with a phone or an internet connection? I don't think that's right. I think it's, again, when it was the old school days when you had to buy adult videos and magazines at the store, that was fine. You can have the adult stuff. That nobody disputes that. But you would have to walk behind a curtain at the video store into a private section where kids couldn't access to get that material. Why should the internet be any different? I don't see any argument for having the majority of the internet being adult content. I think it's 70% of the internet is adult content, and having that completely available unchecked to everybody. I don't see an argument for that. There's so much shit on the internet that kids shouldn't have. So I don't know what we're doing here, but it's not enough. Like, porn needs to be banned on X immediately. Why is porn not banned on X? What is the argument for having pornography on a platform that is widely used by minors? If somebody could articulate the argument in support of that, which I don't think there is one, maybe I could wrap my mind around it. I don't understand this. DC versus Brock Lesnar at the White House, says Nico. Oh, God. Private Space says, I had a built-in BS detector since I was in kindergarten. You have to, bro. Discovered corn at 8 or 9. See, that's evil. That's evil. There's nobody should be discovering that. So anyway, that's really what I say. That video gave me hope for the future. Let's look at another clip. Let me see. Oh, yeah. So Cenat is making headlines across social media yet again in the pursuit of his new clothing brand. Today for this video clip in which he showcases his hate wall. So apparently Cenat has a wall in either his workspace or his house. I'm not sure exactly where it is. The caption here says Italy, showcasing printed out comments of all the hatred he's received on social media since starting his clothing brand. Kai keeps this as some sort of mural in his home. Let's look at the video clip right now to see for ourselves.
The power to embrace hate. Embracing hate, you have to find ways to weaponize it. And I used to struggle with like caring about what people thought. So I got a hate wall.
Wow.
Of all the hate that I received to motivate me even more. Embrace my flaws and find ways, to
oh my goodness.
Make amazing things. They don't believe until you make it cool. It is currently February 12th at 3:40.
I'm not gonna lie, bro. He's doing a lot. Like, this is a lot. This is kind of OD. And it's very performative. That's ultimately what I would say about this. First of all, if you're trying to ward off negative energy, I believe in manifesting, and I kind of believe that, like, you are what's in your orbit. You are the energy that you're putting out and that you surround yourself with. I don't really see the rationale behind having hatred physically manifested in your reality. Like, I don't know how putting these comments on your wall is going to lead to positive affirmation. I mean, if that's what works for you, my guy, then get it. Ultimately, you know, he clearly has his own process when it comes to this. But it feels very performative. It feels very pick-me. And people try to say, why are you hating on Kai? I'm not hating on Kai. I'm just kind of confused with what Kai is going for here, because he's trying to paint himself as this underdog. Kai Cenat is very intentionally trying to make it look like he's this undiscovered dude in this space, and he has to go up against all these hurdles and roadblocks to make this happen. Everybody on the internet is hating on him. He has to persevere. And the whole narrative that Kai is trying to spin right now is ultimately not true. This is a dude who is under 25, I believe. He's super young. He is a multi-millionaire. He has connections to the biggest artists and the biggest business leaders in this space, period. He's tapped in with Drake. He's tapped in with Nicki. He's tapped in with Ye. He's tapped in with all the labels, all the managers, everybody. He's tapped in with the actors. He just made a bag off Scary Movie 6. This dude is in Scary Movie. And you're trying to rap to me like you're an underdog? Bro, you're a multi-millionaire with the assets to do whatever the hell you want. And I'm supposed to believe what? That he's going up against all the hate? You're not going up against shit. You have millions of dollars. You have Drake on the phone. You think when you drop that clothing line and Drake is wearing it and all these, I can't even think of other rappers because rap is so irrelevant now. But all these dudes that you're friends with, all these other streamers, you think when all these guys are wearing it, you got links in Paris at Fashion Week, you got the red carpet at your beck and call. There's really no chance that this clothing line fails. And Kai is trying to spin it with this narrative that he's like on an underdog come up. My guy, you came up a long time ago. You're filthy rich. There's no way this clothing line isn't going to work with the connections you have. And the only way I can rationalize it in my mind is I think maybe Kai is just trying to have marketing here. You know, this is clearly a deliberate marketing move to try to get people talking about his brand, which is working. We got to give him that. It's working. But maybe that's why he's getting hate. And I think that, you know, if anything, he's not getting hate for starting a clothing brand. He's not getting hate for doing something new. The only things I see him getting hate for are being performative and the different actions he's done to go along with that. So that's what I would say. Look, I wish him the best. I don't have any ill will against Kai Cenat. I'm seeing in the chat, he's a pick-me. He wants real love to be seen for who he is. He hasn't been around a genuine person in a long time. He needs a hug. Yeah, I totally agree with that, man. Hollywood erodes the brain. You know, when you're spending too much time in Hollywood, not like I would necessarily even know. I don't know from a first-hand perspective. I avoid places like that. But ultimately, I think it, like, when you're in a different world with different priorities for long enough, it shifts your mindset. You know, even me being in a big city like Bangkok. I mean, Bangkok is like the LA or New York of Asia. You feel the difference in priorities. Like, people are worried about skin treatments and injections and fillers and Pilates and new clothing from Balenciaga. And it's just like the priorities and the concerns are different. And when you're in that world for long enough and you have the means to be in that world and look at this new thing and that new thing and this new procedure and this new treatment and this new clothing piece, your brain kind of changes. Your mind kind of changes. You become a different person. Hey, Mike, what's up? So, yeah, look, good on Kai Cenat for doing his thing, but, like, let's not sit here and try to act like this is going to fail, though. Dude's got Drake promoting his clothing line before it even drops, and he's talking about some underdog shit. These guys don't hang out with underdogs. Let's take a look at this. We got a couple stream clips here. So this one is from DDG. DDG says making your first $100,000 is more impactful than making your first million. I want to take a listen to this clip. I'm trying to do both right now. So I haven't even hit my first 100K, chat. So I'm going to try to take a look. Let me see if I can peep some game from DDG.
When did you say, nigga, I'm rich?
Shit, when I made my first 100,000, to be honest.
Yeah. That was
I remember
Same for me.
like I remember making my first 100,000 over making my first million. I don't remember making my first million.
Damn.
Like I remember the exactly where I was at. I had got my little check from YouTube, and then I put all my money into one account and said 100,000. I called my cousin, called my brother.
Oh my God.
I was like, damn, I got 100 bands. Crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah, like that shit. That's when I was like, oh, I made it type shit. I felt like that.
Like, yeah, because you know you can get more now. Like,
Exactly,
that's what it opened up my brain to just a different level of thinking. It was like, oh, shit. Like, yeah.
After that first 100, I'm like, oh, yeah, boom. I got to 200 quick.
Yeah.
Got to 300 quick, 400, 500, just kept going. And so,
that's dope.
Yeah, I think that it was more impactful with the 100,000.
Yeah.
When did you?
This is so motivating for me, man. And it's really cool to hear somebody speaking about finances from an honest perspective. Again, not the perspective of a fake expert, but the perspective of somebody who's actually just made the money and like is just trying to deal with it. I can't wait to touch my first 100K. Again, it's something that, I anticipated that I would have done that by now. But here's where I got set up. And this is something I've never talked about before. I started doing this as a kid, right? So 10 years old, 11 years old, 12 years old, I was interviewing multimillionaires. I was at the table with millionaires and billionaires, and I was communicating and networking with them and doing work that far exceeded where I was at in terms of my age range. So 11, 12, 13, 14, the whole time I'm growing up, people are seeing what's happening then. And the number one thing they would tell me is, by the time you're 25, you're going to be running the world. I would hear that every single day because I'm 11, 12, I'm in the room with millionaires. By the time you're 20, by the time you're 18, by the time you're 25, you're going to be running the world. You're going to be running the show. You're going to be a millionaire. That's what people would always tell me. Here's what I didn't realize. 9 times out of 10, when you start as a child entity, I don't want to say star because I wasn't a star. When you start as a child, you have your up period as a kid. Then you grow out of being a kid and you have a super hard crash. Most people never come back from that crash. But if you do, you have to work on a long, hard ascent back up. That is what I was not prepared for. That is the part that nobody told me. See, I thought I was just going to go from kid, super successful, and just keep going. But when you're only successful because you're a kid, for the most part, what happens when you're not a kid anymore? You go back down. So what I've had to do for the past 5 to 10 years is we're back up again. Starting my channel, starting all this stuff as an adult was like starting at 0. That's my biggest regret. Not that they told me that I would be running the world by 25, but that I listened to them. And I want to give that as a cautionary tale to anybody. Never put a age stamp or a date stamp on a goal. If you want to be a millionaire, just make that the goal. Don't say I want to be a millionaire by 18, because what happens if you're not a millionaire by 18? really nothing. I mean, these are self-imposed things. All this to say, I believe in the process. I trust in the process. I haven't taken the shortcuts, and I do believe we're going to touch that 100K. I do. I relish in the idea of it, and I'm excited. I remember my first... It sounds funny when I'm talking about 100K, and then I relate it to like my little check. But I remember my first time I ever got a check over $1,000 from YouTube. I was so happy. I did a video on Will Smith when he slapped Chris Rock. I was one of the first YouTube channels to make a video reaction to that. And I got like almost 1 million views in like 2 hours. So that combined with the rest of the money I made from YouTube that month, I think my check was like $4,000. I got like a $4,000 check from YouTube. I remember that. I was happy as fuck. I bought a TV. I bought a 50-inch flat screen TV. Probably got dinner that night. But we have so much farther to go. We have so much farther to go. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. I appreciate what you guys are saying, man, in the chat. Shout out to Mike. 100 million is a lot. I agree with that. So yeah, so DDG. I don't even know. I feel like we're just going on like some philosophical shit tonight, guys. Seriously, I'm just talking that talk. What should we look at next? We have John Lennon. Interesting claim being made about him, and we have Harvey Weinstein. Well, I don't know. Harvey Weinstein. It sounds kind of interesting. Let's see. Bro, stop messing with my ad block, really? Hollywood Reporter? Like, come on now. Look what I'm supporting. I'm supporting an interview with this creep if I turn off my ad block. So how do we watch this? Is this, I'm not going to read this if it's just text. We're seeing a new Harvey Weinstein interview. Can we listen to this, or what's the deal here? Because I saw there was a clip. Oh, it's not a clip. It's just pictures they put. So, yeah, okay, we're going to skip that one. Let's look at John Lennon. Yeah, let's look at John Lennon. So, Yoko Ono has come out in... Okay, actually, it's not Yoko who came out. Paul McCartney is currently making headlines after coming out and speaking about a statement allegedly made by Yoko Ono following John Lennon's death. We're going to take a look at this report here coming from page 6, which reads that Paul claims Yoko Ono once made an interesting claim about John Lennon's sexuality. During an interview with Vanity Fair, the former Beatles said Ono told him that her husband, quote, might have been gay. That's reportedly a direct quote here from Yoko Ono as reported by Paul McCartney. It's said to have been spoken about on a phone call shortly after Lennon was murdered in 1980. Paul says, quote, I swear Ono rang me shortly after John died and said, you know, I think John might have been gay. What? Paul reportedly said, I'm not sure. I don't think so. Certainly not when I knew him, because we'd been in the 60s. We'd been around with loads and loads of girls, and I bumped into seeing him jacking a lot of girl action. What? Says McCartney, who recently opened up about the Beatles' history in a new documentary, said that he had, quote, slept with John very often, but there was never anything. He continued, there was never a gesture, never an expression. It was nothing, so I had no reason to believe this at all. McCartney recalled rumors of Lennon's sexuality swirling after traveling with Brian Epstein, the manager who was gay, in 1963. Wow. So Paul McCartney... Now, my only question with this is, why is Paul McCartney talking about this exactly? Yeah, you can ask me a question, brother. 100% in the chat. Ask me a question. Yeah, this is very, very strange, and also strange that Yoko would make this phone call right after Jon was assassinated. You know, it almost doesn't ring true. You know, if your husband was just shot in cold blood right in front of you, why would one of the first calls that you make be talking about his sexuality? That just seems very off to me. It doesn't seem really like a true story. But also, I mean, if Paul McCartney's saying it, I kind of have to believe it. Look, nonetheless, I think here's where I stand with the Beatles as a guy who was not part of that era but still grew up a fan and am currently a fan today. My stance is that the less I know about the Beatles, the happier I will be. I've heard the rumors about everything. I've heard the rumors about them being gay and being involved with Brian Epstein. I've heard the rumors about all the Paul is dead stuff and all the weird... I mean, I've heard all the rumors. I've heard the rumors about Lennon putting his hands on women. At the end of the day, I'm sure there's a lot of verifiable stuff with the Beatles, a lot of shady stuff that happened behind the scenes. But my thing is, I don't need to know about it. And call me ignorant if you want. I am perfectly happy to be ignorant about the Beatles because of what I said in the beginning of this live stream. I would like to have one artist, one singer, one comedian, one actor, somebody in the entertainment industry that I can enjoy without controversy or without addressing their controversy or addressing their wrongdoings. I get so sick of it. It feels like I can't enjoy a film or an album or a book without somebody saying, the person who made this is a monster. I'm at the point now I don't want to know because I want to enjoy something. And the Beatles have meant so much to me. Their music is so magical. And it's like a stress relief pill. Whenever I listen to the Beatles, it's like an instant happiness. I love the Beatles. I love what they represent. And I don't want to fuck that up. So I am choosing, and I fully admit this, to be willfully ignorant rather, about the Beatles. I don't want to know. If Lennon was doing stuff, I don't want to know. I want to enjoy Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band on vinyl and smoke half a joint, and that's it. I don't want to deal with this. So was Lennon gay? Was he not gay? I don't know what he was. He was a great songwriter. He wrote Across the Universe. That's all I need to know. So that's where it ends for me in the Beatles. What do you guys think? Let me know in the chat. Let's see what the chat is saying. You'll take the blue pill on the Beatles because they meant so much and I don't want to know everything. Dude, this is what I'm saying. I don't want to know. Private says, what's the point of this live? Our minds are going somewhere so great with... What's that? We could be talking about financial literacy. Nobody wants to watch me talk about financial literacy, brother. I appreciate you watching. I appreciate your feedback. But what I talk about works very well. We're about to hit 1 million views on a stream clip that I just put out. Usually 10, 20, 30, 40,000 people in each live. So I'm good. I don't really need advice. I appreciate it, though. We're doing quite well here on the channel. You'd probably smoke a whole joint. Yeah, dude. Yeah, I love Sgt. Pepper. So yeah, let me know what you guys think down below in the chat. I don't know how many other stories there were. I mean, there was a couple stories. I know it's late in America. So maybe we don't do a super long stream tonight. And I'm also trying not to cover brain rot. There's all this stuff going on with the streamers, with Sneeko. Paul died years ago. Do you actually believe that Paul died years ago? I don't believe that. But if he did die, it's like the greatest cover-up of all time. It's like a Jim Carrey cover-up. So yeah, guys, I guess we'll end it here. I mean, we're not going to force it. If there's not a whole bunch of news going on, we will end it here. I appreciate you guys locking in and tapping in. We covered Gene Simmons. We covered the UFC. We covered Jack Dougherty, DDG. We covered some really good stuff. So we're going to post some more stream clips. Make sure to subscribe. Let me know what you think of each piece that we did, each clip down below in the chat. And yeah, we're just going to keep going. We have a new interview coming out today for my rock fans with Drowning Pool. My first time announcing it is today. Got to talk with Drowning Pool about the 25th anniversary of the Sinner record, which is a huge, huge milestone for them. I got to talk about their collaboration with Offset and JID. They performed it on The Tonight Show. I believe they nominated for a Grammy. So we talked with them about all of that. Really cool to have them on the show. More streams coming, more IRL stuff coming in Thailand. Mike says, really enjoyed drumming, and I know Neil Peart from Rush is the best, but Ringo on Strawberry Fields is absolutely incredible. Yeah, of course, dude. For me, it's got to be Neil Peart or John Bonham for me. I mean, but that's obvious, dude. That's everybody. Is that really a controversial list for the best drummers? Like Neil Peart, Ringo Starr, and John Bonham? I feel like that's the Mount Rushmore of drums. Nobody told you to leave, brother. Nobody told you to leave, my guy. But you can leave if you want to leave. You gotta read between the lines of what I'm saying, brother. But if I offended you, well, there's nothing I can really do about that. I'll start a stream and there's like somebody who loves me, and then at the end of the stream that same person will hate me. It just depends on what I say in that moment. That's the funniest thing to me. All right, guys, we're gonna wrap it there. Appreciate you guys locking in. Hit that subscribe. I might even come back on later depending what happens. We'll catch you guys soon.